Hello everyone, welcome back to Before the Green Flag. The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series teams are back in action this week at the ultra-fast Kansas Speedway. After 5 weeks off, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series begin a stretch of 6 races in the next 7 weeks. Brandon Jones will make his first start on the mile-and-a-half this weekend for the number 33 Master Force Chevrolet, and Spencer Gallagher is hungry for a second win at Kansas in the number 23 Allegiant Travel Chevrolet.
Kansas Speedway is a special place for Spencer. Last October, he earned his first victory in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards, and it was the site of his NASCAR Camping World Truck Series debut in 2013. Brandon will be back behind the wheel of the number 33 and will make his first start on a track bigger than a mile. Kansas will be his first true experience on an intermediate style track and will get a taste of the high-speed racing that the mile-and-a-halfs offer.
We'll get you geared up for Friday's race at Kansas and more on this week's edition of Before the Green Flag. Hello everyone and welcome to the latest edition of Before the Green Flag on the brand new GMSRacing.net. I'm Justin Wapham, joined by Joey Coulter and Josh Weinert. And this week the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series returns to action at Kansas Speedway. And guys, we've had a little bit of time off between Yeah, a lot of time off
Half
between
an
the
off
races.
season.
And now we're returning to Kansas. And what do you guys expect to see from the GMS teams?
I'm really looking forward to it. This little string of off weekends that we've had have been really great for both teams because of all the R&D they've been able to do. They've spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel, a lot of time on the 7-post rig. Both drivers since the beginning of the year have got to use a rookie test at Charlotte, so they've both are getting a good feel for this mile-and-a-half package that we have this year, and I think it's nothing but good things this weekend.
Yeah, this is only race number 4 for us, so it's really bizarre. But I look at it, you go back to Atlanta. We've had plate stuff, intermediate stuff, short track stuff. So I go back to Atlanta, and Ty was really good there with the 33 guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly Brandon gets up to speed, being that this is his first start on a mile-and-a-half track with the age limitations, and him just turned 18. He can finally run on a place bigger than a mile. So if they can build off what they did at Atlanta, I expect that group to be right there, top 5 all weekend, speed-wise, and Spencer too. They didn't unload like they went to at Atlanta. We've gone over all that. So they finished the weekend really well there.
Mm-hmm.
So if they build on that, I don't see why those two guys can't be right up there in the top 5, especially after Spencer's ARCA win there last October.
Definitely. And I know to go along with that, Spencer really loves Kansas. It's where he's got his last win in ARCA. It's where he got his start in the trucks. What do you think that kind of goes into it? You have such this connection with a track. Do you really see that kind of, it doesn't hurt you, but do you really see that being a strength for him this week?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what the correlation is, but anytime you win at a racetrack, you tend to like it for a while. Not sure why, but no, he's got a lot of confidence at that racetrack for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's run well there in the past. It's where he made his first truck start, and he has had solid weekends there every time he goes there. So it's his style. It's very wide open. There's a ton of grip. That's Spencer, if you know him. So I think that plays right into him. And again, the packages that we've been building here over the past few months are really going to line up well with him and the racetrack.
Yeah, that's people forget. He's had all this experience in ARCA, but he's only 15 races into his truck career. And Kansas is one of the places that he's had multiple starts in the truck. He's run there in ARCA before, and Jeff was the crew chief last year when he won that ARCA race. So the fact that those guys have experience working together at Kansas, that's huge. They know, especially at night. They know they've done the whole thing of practicing during the day, racing at night, so they kind of have a good idea of what direction the track's gonna go and all that. So, and not only do those guys have a good relationship going, but Spencer's spotter Tim Fito, who spots for Kevin Harvick on the Sprint Cup side, he was in the shop earlier this week and talked with us about the importance of a spotter, especially with a young guy like Spencer with not much experience, and then spotting this week at Kansas City.
With Kevin, he has obviously a lot more experience. With Spencer, he hasn't been to some of these tracks as much, and I use my experience that I've had in driving and spotting really over the last few years that just try to shortcut everything, the information I can feed to the team or Spencer. He's on go when he gets there. He's a young kid with a lot of testosterone and a fast truck, and sometimes you just have to be a calming aspect to it. And I try to do that and just keep him focused on the big picture.
So Tim Fita was giving his take on what is going to be going on through the drivers' helmets this weekend at Kansas. And Joey, you've driven there before. What, as a driver, are a lot of the challenges you're going to face throughout the race weekend?
Well, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, the hardest part about Kansas is you're never off the throttle. A lot of people, I think, look at Kansas and some of the repaves and say, oh, well, they're just on the gas all the time. It's easy. It's really tough in a truck because you do have to be in the throttle all the way around that place, but you got to have your truck balanced right to be able to hold the pedal down and not lose time by scrubbing speed off. Then there's the whole aerodynamic side of things, which a truck's not exactly, it's not all that aerodynamic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into the bodies on these things to make them stick to the racetrack and get through the air at the same time. And that's a big challenge. Last year there was a lot of cautions on restarts that had to do 90% with air and drivers getting themselves in bad situations and get sucked around. And that's where the action comes from.
Yeah.
The side drafting and all that is a lot of work for a driver, and that's where the spotter's going to help out a lot. And then just, drivers watching film and paying attention to things like that.
And one of the hardest parts, too, is that Kansas has a little bit of that variable banking, too. So going across those transitions can be tough as well. But restarts are just, man, they're exciting. I mean, they get wild there at Kansas because I think part of it is you have that giant apron that guys aren't afraid to go down there. And there's so much time from the restart box all the way to turn one that you'll get. I mean, you get guys getting into the back bumper of the truck in front of them, and by the time they get off in turn one, sometimes they're 4 wide. So restarts are, we talk about it almost every single week, but restarts are such a huge component of these races, and just the way Kansas is laid out just makes for one of the craziest racetracks for restarts, and especially late in the race is going to be really something to watch.
And another big storyline for this weekend is Brandon Jones making his first start on an intermediate track with us. And guys, with a young driver like Brandon who's got a whole lot of experience, but none on a truck.
A lot of short track.
Yeah, a lot of short track stuff, but nothing on the intermediate side. What do you guys expect to see from him this weekend at Kansas?
I think he's going to do great. I mean, his test at Charlotte went extremely well. He's very good about watching film and breaking races down, and I think he's going to be fine. Shane Huffman, his crew chief, is used to working with Brandon. They have a really good relationship, so Shane's going to be able to get him up to speed. I give him 5 laps on the racetrack, and he'll be right where he needs to be. I think the biggest learning curve for him is going to be dealing with the air. And just learning how to use it and where to be, where not to be, and things like that. But he's got an experienced spotter. Also, Derek Nealand up on the Spotters Tower, who has been around and worked with younger drivers. So I think, I wouldn't put his expectations any different than anybody else's.
And Brandon's, he's so good at, I think one of his best qualities as a driver is he's so good at adapting to different racetracks, especially places he's going to the first time. I mean, in the ARC Series last year, he goes to Winchester, he wins. He goes to IRP, he wins. And he's, over the last couple of years of his career doing the ARC stuff and Canon, he's gone to a lot of different racetracks, and he's incredibly gifted at picking up on the nuances of a particular racetrack very, very quickly. So, and, like Joey said, it really helps that Shane and him have worked together for so long, and Shane's crew chief at these racetracks at a lot of them. He's raced at some of them himself, so I think that'll shorten up the learning curve a little bit for him as well. And the fact that, the 33 guys they're fast at Atlanta, so he's got a really good piece under him.
And we were able to catch up with Brandon this week and kind of get his take of how he's approaching Kansas Speedway for the first time.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, because you got to throw your first set of tires away in practice because everyone else has been there already, and you're kind of trying to learn the track, first session there. So it's a little bit of a challenge to get up to speed, but we'll have Spencer Gallagher and a couple of other people that I'll be able to lean on this weekend and help us out. So I think we'll get to going pretty quick.
So a lot of action heading into Kansas Speedway this weekend. It's going to be great to be back at the track finally after this mini offseason we've had again. And guys, any final thoughts before the weekend's race?
I mean, it's going to be a great weekend, I think, for both teams. Again, they've had so much time for R&D and really getting these things geared up. Both drivers are hungry, and with this next stretch, it's a pretty good stretch for us. I think you're going to see a lot of good results come out of here the next few weeks.
Yeah, Kansas is just blazing, super fast. It's always a fun place to go to. Plenty of stuff to do around there. There's water parks, restaurants, shops, everything. So it's a really neat setting. Can't wait to get out there.
Well, guys, that about wraps it up for us on Before the Green Flag on gmsracing.net. And be sure this week that you are following us on Facebook and Twitter, as we'll be giving away a special prize pack. If you will be retweeting the video on Twitter and sharing it on Facebook, you are entered to win the prize pack, so be sure to do that. And that wraps it up for here on Before the Green Flag. I'm Justin Waffen, joined by Joey Coulter and Josh Weinrich, and we'll see you next week.